Well, welcome to Streaming Star Wars, the Friday night live Star Wars conversation. It is the day after Thanksgiving, and I am joined by my good friend Chris Ryans and Canadian Nick Milkey, James Rasile from the Rebel Scum podcast, sitting in for Nick, who is on vacation. How you doing, James?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. And Christopher, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, man. Had a good old Thanksgiving yesterday. How about you?
It was nice. Had some family over, had some good eats, some good drinks, and I watched my Giants get beaten by the Cowboys.
Yeah, you did.
It was painful to watch, but hey, you know what? I don't even I got nothing to go with that because I'm wearing a Flyers hat and I just was watching them get murdered by the Penguins. So it's
what's the Flyers? What is that?
that's that game on the ice with the sticks and the little.
That's
black
the one where
rubber.
they have like knives on their feet. Is
Yes,
that the one?
they have knives
That's
on their
crazy.
feet. Yes, it's a
Those guys
crazy
are
thought.
hardcore.
It's a crazy
I've
thought.
heard of that hockey before.
Hockey, yes. Wasn't he like in the cantina in the original Star Wars? I don't recall. Hockey. I don't recall. So James, I know you know Canada you have your Thanksgiving much earlier because you want to get it out of the way.
We've done it.
But how was your Thursday yesterday?
My Thursday it's great. I love your Thanksgiving. I watch football all day. I have done the turkey dinner once. We call it American Thanksgiving, but we do ours in October, and then we can celebrate Christmas for 2 months going into it.
See, that might be smarter. You know, in the U.S., we get all pissed off when the Christmas decorations go up after Halloween. But you guys,
July, actually,
yeah.
And it's like we're just gonna accept it. We'll do.
We pushed
we'll
it
go
up.
early.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go. We're ready. October 8th or whatever it is. We're like, Christmas, go.
Just start focusing. Well, yeah, I mean that's good because all the Black Friday sales and things are going on, and it's crazy here. Speaking of Black Friday sales, I'm going to do our quick. Normally, I throw it over to Nick to do our housekeeping. I'm going to run through this really quick. First of all, if you're interested in supporting this show and all the shows on the ATG Cast podcast stream, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/ATGcast. For as little as $3 a month, you can join us live when we do our interview shows, Podcast to the Wills and Around the Galaxy. You can join us there, but or you can just join us for free here live on Friday nights, which we love. Also, wanted to let you know that there is a big Black Friday deal going on today on the t-shirt shop, on our merch shop. So if you go to atgcast.com, hit the merchandise link, I think it's 40% off of just about everything around the site. And to entice you all, if you're interested, we just put up a new Shill Army shirt the other day. If you're interested, if you buy today on Black Friday with the sales going on, let me know and I will send you a Shill keychain. I was going through a bunch of my my stuff and realized that I had ordered a bunch of these Shill keychains. So if you order something today, DM me at ATG Cash, show me what you ordered, and I'll go ahead and mail one of those out to you. So that's going on there. And yeah, I think that's it for the housekeeping. Oh, follow us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/streaming Star Wars, where old guys talk about Star Wars. So and I would be remiss if I didn't try to run through and try to catch who is with us so far in the stream. We got Bright Suns hanging with us. We got Brian from Half Moth. We've got Jeff hanging out with us. Podcast of the Wills is with us, which means he's on vacation and still watching. God bless him. TW McKay, handful of other people. Dale Erdman is here. JD is here. Good to see all of you. I'm so glad you're with us. Hopefully you all had wonderful holidays. We start every show with a toast, and Nick has been doing a thing lately where he's been picking a topic to toast to. And I think it would be remiss if I didn't reference the return of Bob Iger this week on Sunday night. It seems like in the middle of the night, Disney was like, all right, we got to get rid of this Chapek guy. So I'm going to raise a toast to the return of Mr. Bob Iger. So cheers, everybody. So, and happy Star Wars.
Ooh.
Just
I get my ratios right.
James, what do you think that means, the return of Bob Iger? Do you see it as a good thing, a bad thing? Does it matter?
For Star Wars, I don't know. You know what? I have a lot of respect for Iger. I read his book because I can read. It's a great book. But you know what? The one thing that sticks out to me though with Iger is the Galaxy. You know, the Galaxy's Edge decision was supposed to be an original trilogy thing, and then he saw the dailies for The Force Awakens and decided to make it a sequel trilogy thing, which is great. But it's the the lack of respect for the prequels that makes me nervous about Iger. And I don't know if it's going to matter anymore, because I think Star Wars has moved away. So I hope, Kathleen Kennedy, who I think was just fired, I believe.
Yeah, for the 23rd time, I think.
Today. They should just fire. But I think because what Iger did with Marvel was genius, right? Like, hey, Feige, just do your thing and I'll have faith in you. And he, there's probably notes and he probably yelled at him a few hundred times. But if he could just stick with that with Star Wars, and I think it took Star Wars longer to find their footing with Disney. And I think if he just kind of lets them run the course now, like we're going to talk obviously about Andor, but Andor, Mandalorian, your favorite Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, stuff like that. Star Wars seems to be on this right track. It's the theatrical stuff, which apparently he's really keen on. So I'm kind of indifferent to the whole thing right now. I think earlier on, like a few years ago, I would have been way more excited, to be honest. But right now I'm kind of indifferent. I'm like, Star Wars is for me personally, I think is in a good spot. And I hope he kind of just lets it happen. But that theatrical stuff, they got to figure out.
Awesome. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I agree with him. Here's one of the things is when they first started out, they were like try to distance himself from the prequels so much that they alienated such a huge portion of this fandom that had grown up with the prequels. And I think they're starting to, and I hate to use the term, but learn their lesson now. And you're seeing a lot more prequel stuff being involved. Maybe not as much as people would hope, but it's there. It's there, like in the books. It's there in the comics that Pete doesn't read, and it's there in but with Obi-Wan, having that connection. I also feel like they've got something great here as far as, like I've said a million times, I don't need another movie.
Yep.
I really don't. Between the books, the comics, the shows, I'm good. But if you're going to do some movies, do them and don't. I don't think they even have to do trilogies.
Right. Yep.
They could do some one-offs. It's that enormous of a galaxy.
That's great. Yeah, well, and we are definitely going to hit much more of this in the second half of the show. In the meantime, also remember, we are going to take your calls a little bit later. So think of what you want to say. We'll hear from you on any of the topics that we are going to get to today. But first, let's talk a little bit about that Andor episode. So yeah, quite an episode. It was interesting because I was on a show earlier this week. I was on with the Star Wars guys, with Nate and Michael Messer, a couple brothers. And one of the things I told them, and this is my little humble brag, is I had access to the finale about a week and a half before it aired, just because I was lucky enough to be on the press list. So I was sitting on it, and in that time, I've watched that episode probably a total of about 5 times, which is probably the most I've watched any Star Wars live action episode, other than probably The Rescue, because I just feel like that episode was, my kids loved it. It was just, we kind of went back and forth on that one quite a bit. And I don't know if I watched it so much because it was my favorite episode of the series, so much as there was just so much going on. And as we say here on the show, there are a lot of shows that do the recap and go through scene by scene and moment by moment. But let me do 2 things. First of all, I want to throw it to you guys, and let's start with me asking you, what was your takeaway from this season? And let me add to that by saying, going into Andor, I don't think any of us had any preconceived notions as to what we were going to see, what it was going to be about, other than the very basic information we had. How did it what were your expectations going in, and how did it deliver as a series? And yeah, obviously episode 12, and that's kind of the cool thing about the way the show has gone, is that they've all built on each other. So episode 12 doesn't have the impact without the first 11 episodes. It's not purely, you can't read those chapters individually. But let me start with you, James. When you went into Andor end of September, what were your expectations? And now that you've gone through the whole thing, how do you feel about the show now?
Okay, so we heard that it was going to be like an espionage thriller with Andor. So I went into it thinking that I did think we are going to get a little bit more of an adult tone. I did not think we were going to have Andor in prison for half the series. The guy is locked up for half the show, and it's still arguably the best Star Wars content we've gotten since who knows. The show blew me away every week, and and Pete, I joked to you about you loving Book of Boba Fett, but I actually Boba Fett, and I could say with that show, but Mandalorian especially is we're always like Bryce Dallas Howard should do a Star Wars movie, and every director on those shows should do a Star Wars movie. No one talked about the directing on this show, and it was phenomenal. The cinematography was through the roof. Every time I watch it, I'm like, how does this look so good? And people are like, it doesn't feel like Star Wars, and I kind of get it. But my thing though, going like before the show, I didn't really anticipate feeling this, but when I watched it, this show wasn't a Star Wars show. It was it was, but it was a Rogue One show. So because for me, it was like, they're like, we're not gonna do any fan service, but there was a ton of fan service from Rogue One. It was like they used Rogue One as their movie, not the whole galaxy necessarily. And they use the galaxy, but you know what I mean? Like Rogue One was kind of like, what happened in Rogue One is fair game, I felt. If it happened in Mandalorian, happened in Rise of Skywalker, not so much. But if it happened in Rogue One, they can kind of utilize that. And that really appealed to me. And I just thought the way they handled everything, and it surprised me in a way that I wasn't expecting, because I didn't think we would get a Star Wars. Because I think everyone's had that talk, like an R-rated Star Wars or an adult Star Wars. And this was the adult, mature Star Wars where kids I think would be bored of it, but I almost feel like you earn your keep with the fun stuff, and then you get the Andor. And I always feel like Andor is like why we love Star Wars, and Mandalorian is why we remember Star Wars. And I'm kind of like, that's how it is. And the show just exceeded expectations, but I still feel like it's a binge watching show more than Mandalorian's a weekly show. I feel like this one really, especially season 2, if it's what they're saying, 3 episodes, I think a week would probably be the way you want to watch that. But I don't know. I thought it was just a lot of, it was fun. I thought it was fun, but in like a more like, you have to sit and pay attention fun. It's not just like grab popcorn and have a laugh fun.
I think that's an interesting point, because you're right. I mean, Star Wars has been very much action and adventure, and this had some action. It was certainly, I wouldn't call it adventure. It was certainly an espionage thriller, psychological, sort of twists and turns and that sort of thing. So it was Star Wars in a different style. What about you, Chris? When you came into Andor, what were you thinking? I mean, because you and I were together a little bit at Celebration, and so even what we got there, I don't think it didn't prepare me for what we got. What were your thoughts?
I don't know about expectations I had for it outside of, at first, I know the guy who was the producer or the creator of this show called The Americans, which is amazing. Yeah. It's a Russian spy story. Was heading this show, so I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Like a spy thriller in Star Wars. Like, yes, give me that. That is as far as my expectations went. Seeing the show, just it blew me away, and it just said how good it was. Like when I walked out of Rogue One for the first time, and I was saying this to a buddy of mine earlier today. When I walked out of Rogue One for the first time, I went, this didn't have that. This had no reason being that good. Like, and that's the same thing with this show. Yeah, I mean the action is there, not so much the adventure, but just the intrigue and the intensity. So much so that such a lack of action and lightsabers and blasters and all that kind of stuff, where I am exhausted.
Right.
After every episode, like my reaction is just, oh, when the credits hit, I'm just shh. Like it's every episode. So from what we saw at Celebration and everything, I am so pleased. with everything with this show, like you said, from the cinematography to the directing, the music, the acting. This is probably the best Star Wars thing since. Might be the best Star. I don't know. I don't know where to rank it or anything like that. But
Yeah.
it's just it is special. It is amazing Star Wars. And to what James was saying when you were saying about people saying, oh, this isn't Star Wars. It doesn't look like Star Wars. No, it doesn't. It adds to what we know,
Right.
and it's building upon that, and I think that's fantastic that there's no longer this narrow dogmatic view of Star Wars. To paraphrase Palps, but there's not a tunnel vision like this is what Star Wars is and that's it. Andor comes in, boom, and just blows it up even more, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's. So let's talk about that for 1 second, because of course, it's not Star Wars without Twitter going absolutely crazy. But
what?
Yeah, I know it's weird. It's weird. But it, again, I'm still in that weird sort of phase between how the episodic video game approach of something like Mandalorian, and I wonder if Mandalorian will. I don't think it will change because of this, but I wonder if Star Wars storytelling is going to evolve as a result of this. I don't know. James, what are your thoughts? I see you
I'm
nodding.
just thinking it's the Acolyte is, I think, going to be the X factor in it all. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Because that's your lightsaber, that's your Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, does this give them permission to now do something a little bit more similar? Like, that's the show. I think that's the show we're going to find out what Star Wars wants to be right now, what it wants to be more of in the direction. Is it, we're going to get a little bit more Andor or a little bit more Mando? And the Mando, I love Mando. Mando's so much fun. It's fun. It's funny because when you were on the show earlier this week, Pete, I talked about how like Boba Fett and Mando, they have those episodes where it's like mostly silence, and I'm like, I love Star Wars when it's silent. And then we did our top 5 moments from the first season of Andor, and my number 1 was Luthen's monologue.
Right.
I'm such a hypocrite because but that's the beauty of it too. So Acolyte for me, though, to answer your question, Acolyte is for me the X factor. Like, what are we getting there? And I feel like that's going to give us a better idea of what to expect going forward.
That's great. Chris, did you want to add to that?
I don't think. I know a lot of people are like, yo, they want everything to be like Andor now. And I'm like, no, you need the campy action and adventure. You're going to need the stuff that's a little more lighthearted. And that's what makes this universe so amazing. Yeah. So I don't think everything is going to need to be like Andor. I do think it's changing the game a bit.
Yeah.
As far as the writing goes and everything, because with Andor, like I know a lot of people will say that like in Rebels, there were a whole bunch of fillers and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think there were. But with this series, there's no wasted dialogue. There's no wasted scene. Everything has a purpose. And I think that going forward, the expectations are going to be like, everyone needs to really bring their AA or S level game, game face for this one. So
we'll see. It will be interesting. And look, and I think the thing to remember too is the voices on Twitter, the voices on social media, I hate to put it this way, but they don't matter, right? So the Favreau Filoni style story is still going to be done that way. Yeah. I think you're right, James, about Acolyte. We have no idea what to expect from Leslie Headland and what she's putting together. If you look at her style, from was a Russian Doll. She's got a very unique style of her own, just like Tony Gilroy and the things he brought to bear on this. So, and if you think about it, 10 years ago when Disney bought Lucasfilm, there was talk of doing all kinds of different types of stories in the Star Wars universe. And, I think when Solo ran into its challenges, I think people said, well, I guess we do have to just be formulaic. But I think this absolutely shattered that as a way of thinking. So the second question I want to get to about this particular episode, and again, if you're watching and hanging out with us, be ready. We're going to give you a link in just a little bit. We want to hear your thoughts on the final episode of Andor. James, I'll start with you on this one. There were so many really special moments in this episode as far as character sort of drawing things to a close. What's one of the things that has stuck with you? Like what's the character arc maybe that was the most impactful to you in this series?
It was Mothma. And I'm surprised that I'm saying that right now because yes, when did I watch it? Wednesday. I would not have said that, but as I've thought about it more, and you know what it is, and I actually I messaged you this right after I watched it. Her driver gets like a throwaway line in episode 2 by Clea, like she has a new driver, and that's it. They never bring it up again. Just the driver's there. The driver's always there, but you're never thinking about the driver because there's a driver. And then at the end, you're like, oh, he's an informant. That's brilliant. But it's the way Mothma's, and we're all like, I wasn't really sure where we were going with her husband. I'm like, what is going on with? And she ends up being the one that's like, she's like, I'm pretty sure she's using him, right? Like, she's playing him, and I'm like, what is happening here? Is no one good in the galaxy? There's no good in the galaxy. We need Luke Skywalker. Like, there's no good anywhere. I'm like, and that's the one thing that really stuck with me with what they did with Mothma, and I mean that as a compliment. I'm joking about the Luke thing, but like that stuck with me. I'm like, wow, they really did that well because I didn't. The one thing with the show is I always knew where they were going and never had any idea where they were going. It was just like every time I'm like, oh, they were going there, and then they kind of took this left turn, right turn. Like, oh, great. So it was for me. It was Mothma.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that Nick says a lot when we were talking about the show over the last month and a half or so is, those sequences with Mon Mothma, they pulled you in. So it was like, again, I'm not a big Downton Abbey fan or anything like that, but these high intensity conversations were as action packed, if you will, as anything we've seen in Star Wars before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I think the Luthen scene, not the Luthen scene, sorry, the Corvus is her driver's name. He did exactly what she wanted him to do, which makes me wonder, maybe he's a double, triple agent, right? Maybe he's like, tell me what you want me to tell the ISB. I'll take it to I think season 2 is going to have more of that. Yeah. What about you, Chris? Which arc was the most high impact for you?
Probably the prison arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just it's the thing that outside of Nemec's manifesto and that's starting to steer Cassian in that direction. The prison arc did it. It nailed it. It drove that nail for him, I think, as far as the rebel that he is going to be. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that to have him, that's what really kind of made him become a leader, right? And so, the prison arc was just so. What was great about the prison arc to me was, again, when you couple that with Dedra and Dr. Gorst and what they're doing to Bix, and you're like, the Empire is not cool. Like, yeah, I love their uniforms. I love Star Destroyers. TIE Fighters are my favorites, but they're bad. They are not good people, Yeah.
I felt like I was steered, not like bamboozled or anything like that as far as Dedra goes, but I was suckered in a little bit. Where I was like, oh, like I was supporting her, like, dealing with like that one dude, Blevins and stuff. And I was like, oh man, you could do this, Dedra, you could do this. And I had to stop myself. I'm like, dude, she's an Imperial. She's gonna break your heart. She broke my heart.
Yeah.
Like she was just so heartless when it came to Bix and everything. But in her defense, to her, those are terrorists. Those are criminals. Yeah. And she's just the Steven Seagal of ISB agents getting the job done.
James, you were going to say something?
Yeah, and the thing is, to your point about them being terrorists, they were terrorists. Like what I just said about Mothma, you got Saga, Luthen. Like, well, we're just going to kill our own to show that we're don't have anybody on the inside. Like, who's the good guy? I mean, obviously we know that Palpatine's JP, but like, I don't know. Like, that's what this show did so well. Is there's no good left in the galaxy. And really, it's awesome.
Yeah, everybody sucks. That's what we need to remember.
But it just shows the lengths that everybody's willing to go to for what they believe in, And
Yeah.
and this show was every episode had like a mirror, right? You saw this side of the mirror and then this side of the mirror. Andor's in prison, Mothma's in her own prison, and you kept seeing that throughout the series how it was going. And it was so well thought out, this series. That's what it's just.
I think that's one of the things that is so great about this too, is, as you said before, and Chris, you said it before, is there was not a single thing that happened for no reason, right? The driver, she's got a new driver, and it turns out to be important. Every single thing that happened, Nemec's manifesto, every piece of it. And what I'll talk about for 1 second before we go to break and we come back for our second piece is, if you want to check out my 9-minute review of the episode, you can. It's on our YouTube channel. But one of the things that struck me the hardest with this particular episode was, I think I read it somewhere. Tony Gilroy said something like, the last line of the series is going to bring it all together, something like that. And I could have just been imagining that. But when Andor says, kill me or take me in, it's brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant choice of words. And it seems so silly. And why would you focus on it? Because take me in sounds like, all right, capture me, arrest me, whatever. But what it is this entire season is Andor trying to find that belonging, that same belonging in a way that Rey was looking for.
Yeah.
He doesn't just, he's risked everything. He wanted his mother to be proud of him. He told Zahn that just before he found out she died. And his last words, I had to go and check it out. His last words in Rogue One were, your father would have been proud of you, Jin.
Yeah.
So this is a key driver to everything he does. It's getting to purpose. It's having some sort of purpose, knowing, like, it's sort of how he reconciles doing all the crappy things he has to do. Is there's more to this. This is a bigger thing, and I'm doing this for the right reasons. And maybe Nemec's manifesto was the thing that helped him kind of determine exactly what that was. But as far as characters that evolved, I am loving Luthen, because he went from being, he was a rebel operative to possibly a bad guy to a guy who is just, he's cold-hearted to get what he needs done. But at the very end, the smile that he finally cracks for Cassian is
That
fatherly.
genuine smile.
Yes, it's like, come here, boy, I got you. And it was again, it's what you were saying, James. This is shot so well. It captures things so well. Just those little subtle movements are the things that make a big difference in this show. You guys have any thoughts on that? You don't have to. That's all right.
I would like to say Marva's speech at her funeral was a cliff notes. Kids' cliff notes are these things that
how I got through high school.
It was a cliff notes for people who misunderstand what woke means.
Yeah,
I love that. And I'm, of course, it doesn't explain everything or anything like that, but it gives you gives you the bare bones of what woke is. And it's not just cancel this or whatever, blah 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 blah. It's fighting against injustice and seeing, it's don't be complacent.
Yep.
Keep your eyes open, look around you, and see the world for what it is. And I loved that speech, and I was like, so many Star Wars fans who think they love the rebellion are not going to get that.
But I hadn't thought of that before.
Yes, Brian. Paper Wikipedia. That's what
that's paper Wikipedia. It's I mean, by her using the phrase "I was sleeping" goes back to, every now and then when I see the word woke thrown about, I go and I look for what is the actual definition, and it was used in the 40s and 50s by the African American community, looking and saying, look, we need to be awake to what's really happening. And that's, I mean, she literally says, I was sleeping. We were all sleeping.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on, right? So so good. James, any last thoughts on this particular episode or the series?
It was okay.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah,
It was like a 5 out of 10. No, it was like, it was just what the guy said. It was just the attention to detail, the way they had it all planned out. Just give me, and I'm being selfish when I say that, but give me that. Just let me know, let me feel like you know where you're going with the story, and I'm good to go. It was fantastic.
Awesome. Chris, what were your thoughts
on this finale?
Yeah. Yep.
The 13 out of 10. And and I love how it ended. How it didn't end. It wasn't this big explosive boom, boom, boom. This huge thing. It just ended.
Yeah.
And everything was setting up so many threads for what's to come in this next season. I am so invested. I'm so in, and I cannot wait to see it whenever it comes out.
Yeah. 2024 is what it's looking like. And
I know. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I was hoping for next week.
Well, you can watch Rogue One in the meantime.
I can't do that.
You can't do that. Well, that was actually, I'll say my last thought on it will be that I was happy that this particular episode ended in a way that if a season 2 didn't exist, it would still work. That was always that's always my concern with a show like, House of the Dragon or something that we know they've already planned season 2 and beyond. They kind of don't end it. This ended, right? So as much as it would suck if we didn't get a season 2, if we didn't get a season 2, it would actually still work. You could go from here to Rogue One and just sort of fill in the blanks. But I'm so happy that season 2 is coming because I want to see much, much more of this.
Yeah.
And speaking of what's coming, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the future of Star Wars live action on Disney Plus and Disney and beyond, especially in light of what we just got from Andor. So we'll be right back, and we're going to take your calls after the next break.
It's that time of year again, Life Day, and all those other holidays. And that also means it's gift-giving season. What better way to say happy holidays than with a colorful t-shirt emblazoned with my face? Nothing says I love you like giving a mug that reminds someone that they're one of your weird space friends. Proudly slap stickers on your personal belongings that declare that yes, you are a shill. With more than 30 designs, all the sizes and colors, you are sure to find something that'll make you whip out your credit card and buy something you'll have to explain to whoever's doing your laundry these days. Check back regularly for new designs, and if you see something you like, make sure to snag it before our Disney overlords remove it for borderline copyright infringement. Head on over to atgcast.com today and click the merchandise button. That's atgcast.com. And happy Life Day to those who celebrate.
See, people call me a shill, but I believe that Clanker may be the bigger shill. But and speaking of shill, remember, if you order on Black Friday and let us know, I'm going to send you a shill keychain. So that way, not only when you're wearing your shirt that says shill, you can have it on your keys, or you can just, flaunt it about, or you could save it and it'll become a collectible one day. Probably not worth anything much at all, but that's not the point. The point is, where am I going with this, Chris? Chris, let's talk about Disney Plus and the future of Star Wars live action before I just keep rambling. Yeah. What take us through our next segment, sir?
Well, with the future of Disney Plus, there's so many ways that they can go with this. I mean, I know we have maybe a Lando show coming. We have the Acolyte coming. There's a droid show that's supposed to be coming out. There's so many ways it can go. What I think would be amazing to see would be features. Maybe not just series, but features. Disney, like exclusively to Disney Plus. Animated, do adaptations from the books or like an arc from the comics. I think that would be fantastic. And these are just a bunch of things that I would love to see. But I'm trying to think what else would be fantastic for Disney Plus going forward. Oof.
Well, I think I like your concept there of using Disney Plus as an area to do two things. I love the idea of a feature exclusively for Disney Plus versus a theater experience. Although, and I'm with you. And and I think it's sacrilege to a lot of people, but I don't know if we need another film quickly unless it's done extremely well
Yeah.
and is really ready to bring something to the table that's going to be different from a live action series. But I hadn't thought about what you said there before. You know, if they did an animated run of the Crimson Dawn comic run, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that would be amazing because, as you know, I have no patience for comic books. It's not that I dislike them; I just slower on my list. But I would watch it as a story for sure. I think that would be
Right.
an interesting way
Yeah.
to present it. I think people would really like that.
It would
So,
really help out, and it would be like great synergy. Like there was one point during the Rebels run where there was an episode where with what is his name, that one Mandalorian, um
which one from?
oh the one from Conquered Dawn. He worked with the Ghost Crew for a bit, and
Oh,
I can't think of his name right
yeah,
now.
I know what you mean. Yep.
But the one episode I think that he premiered and talked about, like in something that happened during the Clone Wars.
Mhm.
It was in the Kanan comics that came out that same day,
Oh wow.
and like that scene. So I mean, I love that kind of synergy, and they could do something like that. Anything I think to put eyes on the comics or to put more eyes on the novels and vice versa. Do it. Do like one of my favorite books is Force Collector. I'd love to see an
Oh wow.
adaptation of that. Yeah, I think that could be something that they could do. It's such a large universe, and there's so many huge pockets of time. Why not have any little sliver of story, just like just like some Disney? And I'm not talking like a Lego kind of thing, and I love those
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
But something with the same kind of quality as Tales of the Jedi or Bad Batch, for an animated thing, or do like a nice live action 1 hour live action series. I think live action feature. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Or just continue the Solo series through there of movies. Just give me more of Alden
make
Ehrenreich.
make Solo too heavy. If they wait any longer, Alden
Yeah.
Ehrenreich is going to be older than Harrison Ford when he was in Star Wars. So,
Oh, I see Nick is dredging up stuff there.
what is he?
He reboot the OT.
Oh no.
More Jabba.
More Jabba. What do you think, James? What do you think? Not only what you want to see, but what do you think we're going to see?
Well, I got to call back to what we talked about earlier with Bob Iger returning. He said no Star Wars movies on Disney Plus. So I guess as long as he's around, there'll be no Star Wars movies. Now, animated films, I don't know, but live action, that's what he said.
Interesting.
I'm with you. I would love that. I'm all for that. Why not? You're building universes. Why not do that? I don't. I kind of hope that I'm looking forward to like a game plan on everything just going forward. You know what? Have your like Filoni Favreau verse and they can all live together as one. And I'm okay with that. I like the idea of adapting this stuff maybe as animated films or series.
Mm-hmm.
But then, because you're saying bring more eyes to the books and stuff. But then if you do it animated, how many more are you bringing? Because I feel like you're still.
That's a good point.
There's still that gap where people, like my wife my wife will not watch anything the animated stuff with me at all. I might get her to watch the Grogu short because it's 3 minutes and it's Baby Yoda, and who doesn't love Baby Yoda?
Did you watch it?
Of course I did. I watched it 3 times in one. It was 3 minutes long. It was like it was made for me. That's my attention span. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, dust bunnies. This is adorable. I mean, it was fine.
That's awesome.
I literally put it on. I was like, oh, that's fine. And then I put it on. I was feeding my baby. I was 2 months old, so I was feeding it, and I was just like, I just kept watching. I was like, oh, this is fine. But I think like Studio Ghibli like that though, that would be like, I don't know. I think there's an opportunity there, but again, if you're adding eyes to it, and then they put the cost of it in there, and they've already have those stories written, and I feel like they're afraid to recreate that. You know what would be cool if they could do, and they're kind of true at doing this. But remember Shadows of the Empire? You had the video game, you had the book, something like that, like a big event like that. Like High Republic's kind of cool, but do something more like that, because we don't know what happened now after Empire, right? In canon, like what happened after Empire to Return of the Jedi, and they seem to be obsessed with that.
We're in the comics. That's happening now.
Okay, well, I'm with Pete on this one.
Read a book, you plebes. What's wrong with you?
Oh
You're
man,
missing so much good stuff.
Okay, but here's a question though, because there's a lot of problems where they do something in a comic and then you have it on the canon comic, for example, the Bad Batch kind of retcons what happened. Do you have issue with that? Because I feel like the more stories you get in comics and they start putting in live action, that's gonna have to happen just for the creators.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't dwell on it like my buddy Dan does. But yeah, it's I'm not a fan that they do that. If the comics are just as important as far as storylines, as far as canon goes, then I think that the live action needs to
Respect it.
adhere, to that. I do think so. And like right now, these comics are being done so well. Like especially what Charles. I'm not going to single anyone out, but I mean what Charles Soule is doing, what Ethan Sachs is doing, what Greg Pak is doing, what Alyssa Wong is doing right now with like the main Star Wars books in the Age of Empire era between 5 and 6. All that stuff is so good and is so cinematically sound that nothing should have to be changed or anything like that to fit. I mean, they're doing their damnedest to make everything fit in that universe and make it like a woven seamlessly. So I don't think they have to. Whether or not they will is another story. But
it would be interesting though, as to James's point. Like I watch animation because I'm a full-time Star Wars nerd, but I know that my dad, for example, doesn't watch any of the animated shows. Do you think if they did an animated 3-part series of the Soul comics between Star Wars and Empire, do you think that would get more eyeballs than
I think so.
Bad Batch or Clone Wars?
I think so.
And it's a different way to tell that piece of the canon, because it's a very, we talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, the fact that Luke met Vader for the first time in comics and nobody knows that because nobody reads the comics. I'm sorry, Chris, but it's true. Fewer people do. So if they could create a canon animated version of that might be, of course it would send some people into a tailspin because of the fact that it's a different approach to the canon.
Yeah.
But maybe Disney Plus is where you play with that.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, Clone Wars did it right between clones and Sith, so why not?
It's true. Clone Wars has changed. So we talked a little bit before about how Disney and Iger specifically ignored the prequels for so long, so much so that the first line of episode 7 is "This will begin to set things right."
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was
very egotistical
to all the people who like to forget that people hated the prequels as much as they hate the sequels now. That was a very real situation. But the opportunity to kind of tell those stories is one of the reasons why I changed my opinion on the prequels, because the full story is there now. And I look at it as the larger universe. If they could do things, and I think that's honestly what they're doing with this whole Mandoverse, is making connections to the sequels to bring people along for that ride who may or may not ever get there. I'm not sure, but
and why not? You can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it's good content, and I think that's the other thing too, is the live action stuff has been solid and very well received. Now, we haven't even mentioned Obi-Wan, which kind of did some of the stuff we just talked about there, filled in some blanks with a fresh new story, and it was received pretty well. You had a portion of people who said it broke canon, which of course it didn't if you go in with eyes wide open. But it was a different kind of story to tell in a different part of a different part of the timeline.
Yeah, you know, my parents who like Star Wars but don't watch anything animated, don't read the comics, don't read the books. Although my dad read Lost Stars, which was very weird. But they just watched Obi-Wan like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they loved it. They love Book of Boba Fett too, so maybe you can't judge. But they loved Obi-Wan. They're like, they were asking me, like, hey, these Inquisitors, are they Jedi? I'm like, are you really interested? And my dad hates everything. Like, my dad loves the original Star Wars and the prequels, but hates everything else except for Rogue One. Like, just is like, it sucked. That's how all the sequels and Solo, he's like, whatever. But Rogue One he loved. But this,
Is your
but these
father
shows,
Star Wars theory? I did not know that. He's Canadian. He's Canadian. Could be.
My sister lives in Vancouver as well. So, but wait a minute.
Wait a second.
Wait a minute, Dad. No, but he's not. He doesn't care like enough to like complain about it. And the thing is, I'll go over and the Star Wars will be on, and he'll just watch it. I'm like, I thought you hated this. He goes, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
But he was like, but they were both like all in on like what are the Inquisitors? Like they were very and they didn't care about the card. They didn't care. They're not going to watch it ever, right. And they didn't need to. They got what they wanted. They really liked those characters, and it was for me. It was intriguing seeing the Inquisitors through the eyes of people who have never experienced them. Like even my wife has played Fallen Order, so she knew what they were. But my parents had no idea, and I was like, "This is interesting that you're kind of digging these guys," because I love Inquisitors. I didn't think they were portrayed so great on Obi-Wan. I was a little bit like, they're fine. Yeah. I thought Fallen Order was the best, but it was. So anyway, it just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, this is interesting how you're perceiving those guys.
And again, anything that I think about similarly. Conversations with my dad. I always use the Ahsoka example. When Ahsoka showed up on The Mandalorian, I was like, "What did you think of her?" He was like, "Yeah, she was pretty cool." I was like, "Oh, yeah, you have no idea how cool she is. Let's talk." So, but I think that's part of the challenge. I think that faces Disney Plus now is trying to keep these characters going and finding a way to introduce them in a way that you don't have to have read the comics or seen the animated shows or even frankly seen the show before, right? I mean, it's a little risky doing an Andor show because believe it or not everybody has seen Rogue One, and now they're going to want to see Rogue One, which I think is a nice next sort of step for that. So so listen, we want to hear from all of you who are watching us. We want to know what you think about the future of Star Wars live action, what you would like to see on Disney Plus, and we also want to hear from you as to what you thought of that finale from Andor, and maybe even tie it together, see what that means for the future of Disney Plus. We know we have Skeleton Crew coming. We know we have Ahsoka coming. We know we have Acolyte. Those are the only thing. Oh, and we have 4 series that are either filming or have filmed, which is actually, first time I'm saying that out loud, that's actually pretty wild. That means we have for sure, because that has been part of the reputation over the last couple of years, right? There's a lot of things that are started and disappear. But 4 series coming out, plus 5 actually, if you get the fact that the rumors are very strong. Collider says that Andor season 2 has started filming. So 5 things in the works in live action Star Wars, and not one movie, none of them Lando, and none of them movies, which is a very interesting state. Chris, we heard your thoughts on not getting another movie. James, what are your thoughts if we ever get another movie or not? Not ever, but it's
right now, we talked about this. We kind of said, like, if streaming was around when George Lucas sold Lucasfilm, would he have sold Lucasfilm? It's a question. We never will know the answer, obviously. Good hypothetical. My feeling on a movie, I'm going to disagree a little bit with what Chris said about not needing trilogies. I don't know if you need a trilogy, but I think the movies, because the shows are so awesome and what they're doing it so well. I think the movies, though, it can't just be a one-off movie anymore. I just don't think that, and I mean this, I mean it more financially, but I don't think it makes sense to do a one-off when. Why am I gonna like? I haven't with Marvel movies. I haven't seen a Marvel movie since Spider-Man. Like I'm just like they're on TV. Like why? I just don't feel like it. And also I have a newborn, so I haven't cared. But like it's like whatever. So Star Wars, like it needs to be an event. Like Endgame was that event, right? Yeah. And Episode 9, I know everybody hates it now, but like Episode 9 was an event. Force Awakens was a massive event, but Episode 9 was also a big event, and I think for the movies, we have to know that there's stakes, big stakes. It doesn't have to be world-ending stakes, but it has to be something more drastic than we're getting on TV. And I think we have to know that there is a plan that this is going to extend. And I don't know. I just feel like just make episode 10. It doesn't have to be your Skywalker saga, like you're obsessed with calling it, but like make it episode 10. Just get me to the theater. I'm going to go watch it. We're all going to watch it. Even if it's not called episode 10, we're going to watch it. But like just call it episode 10. Make me happy. And then just make it like 1,000 years in the future. Whatever. Galaxy far, far away, a long time ago. Whatever. I'm gonna go. But it needs to be. We need a movie that's going to be a big event film that's going to pull us in. And if it's just a one-off, I don't know if most audiences are going to be like, eh.
Well, do you think maybe that was part of the problem with, we've seen the overanalysis and complete taking apart of why Solo wasn't as successful. People say it was a failure. I mean, it made money, and it became a fan favorite and things like that. Do you think the problem was we were getting one movie a year, and that might be too much Star Wars? Is that possible? Too much Star Wars in the theaters?
You can give me a movie every week, and I'm there at the theater watching it. Those people with the too much Star Wars, get out of my face. I need Star Wars weekly. Listen, all right. I mean, I get comics every Wednesday, and every Wednesday, yes, new Star Wars. Gimme. Because people like me, people like you, Pete, we lived through that 16 years of nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So give me.
But you can't. But to James's point, you can't make an event, and the bolus, that middle section, the average fan can't get as excited as we do on a weekly basis. And I think if you think about Uncle Bob Iger and his feelings about the movie theater experience and that sort of thing, it's to that point. I mean, every year may be tough. I think
Iger also was part of the problem with Solo, because I believe Kathleen Kennedy was just fired again, but I think she
breaking
was
news.
like right again.
No,
I know, twice in one show.
let me
But
check some gamers.
I think she wanted Solo out in December, and he was like, no. And if you look, Mary Poppins, whatever 2 or whatever it is, and Solo, they both underperformed. And I think if you swap those, they probably do a little bit better. Because Last Jedi, you can love it, you can hate whatever, but this came 5 months after that, and the fandom, we're still not. I'm still like, I hate talking about that movie, and I actually really like it, but I don't want to talk about it because I'm just exhausted from both ends. I'm just like, I don't.
There's PTSD with that one.
Yeah, it's like the most overrated and underrated movie. I'm like, how does this happen? It's like, God, it's fine. Like, it's a good movie. It's fine. Let's move on. Snoke was a clone.
Oh man,
Yeah, I think if that would have came out, like you're saying, if that would have came out in December,
yeah. Well, and
There'd be
also
no
we were starting to get to that sort of. It felt like a holiday tradition to have Star Wars sitting in your movie theater, and hey, in the 1980s it came out in May. In the 1990s it came out in May. It's a different world. The theater experience is different, and so I think it is different. So.
And Lord of the Rings was fun in December, right? Like that, like it kind of reminded me back to like when I went to I'm like, oh man, this is fun. Like Christmas time, let's do it. Like December, like let's see. It was. I went with family and friends. It was like we had a whole row for all three, like 4 of them, and then Solo. We went and we're like, I love Solo. I still do.
Yeah,
but it was different. It did everything about it felt different.
Yeah. Yep.
That flick I saw the most out of all the Disney era Star Wars films. Like I saw that like 5-6 times in the theater.
Really?
That one.
Yeah.
Like Force Awakens, I forgot it. 2-3 times. Last Jedi, once or twice. Rise of Skywalker I saw once, and that's not like a knock on Rise of Skywalker. I saw it once and I was good. But Solo was so fun. And was so not the galaxy was in peril with this thing, and it was just like a nice adventure within the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yep,
loved it.
Yep. And I think that would work. So I mean, Andor, honestly, yes, it's galactic stakes. Clearly, it's the birth of the rebellion, but it's told in a way where you're worried about. What does Vel lose? What does Cinta lose? What does Mon Mothma lose? Not what does the galaxy lose? What do these guys lose? So it's a very maybe that works better in the
It's more personal, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we are going to, if we want to hear from you, if you're hanging out and you want to join us in the chat or in the live with a phone call, just go to type into your browser bit.ly/ATGcast. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we will start taking your calls.
This is Clanker,
And I am MK0.
and we're here to tell you about Geek John Toys and Collectibles. What the hell is a John?
John is a slang term that is commonly used in the eastern United States city of Philadelphia, meaning virtually anything.
Ah, so nerdy stuff then.
I would assume so. Please continue.
Right. Geek John Toys and Collectibles is your pop culture destination for all the plastic crack you're addicted to. From action figures to comic books, from Funko Pops to high-end merch, they have the stuff from all the major and indie companies alike. Check out their eBay store to see their wide range of items.
Find them on their eBay store at ebay.com/USR/GeekJohnOutpost or email them at geekjohnoutpost@gmail.com.
Geek John, these are the Johns you're looking for. Oh my maker, I can't believe they made me say that.
It's a good tagline.
It is. It's a for
Like-
my favorite part is the all the plastic crack you're addicted to.
Yes.
Especially because the way Clanker says it sounds like crap, which is kind of what my wife calls it. So we're kind of safe there. So hey, listen, we want to take your calls. We the lines are open, as they say on your favorite sports talk radio shows. Hang out with us, give us a call, tell us what you're thinking. We did not go into a lot of depth on Andor, but there were a couple things while we wait for people to dial in. How do we feel about Dedra and Cyril after that weird little life-saving, awkward closet? Was there romance there? Was there fear? What are you guys' thoughts on that? The whole thing grossed me out because he is like the creepiest dude in the world.
It was romance. That's what it was. I was like, when they were that close together, I was like, no.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Please, like no.
I was right there with you.
But I think she's going to get him into the ISB in some way.
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah. What are your thoughts, James?
I hope so. You know what? I gotta be honest with you. I really kind of Deidre to me was I know I said Mon Mothma earlier, but she was my favorite, probably my favorite character on the show. Like like I'm a big Imperial guy. Like Stormtroopers are my favorite thing in Star Wars. And I was like, oh man, she was fantastic. Just a great villain, great character. And then she started getting stompled, and I was like, "Oh man, I was kind of rooting for her to die."
Yeah,
I was like, because she's so, but think about it, it's very like Ewoks Return of the Jedi, where she's super powerful and public figure, and then she just gets trampled to death. I was like, this is horrific, and I'm all in. And then she got saved by Cyril, and I was like, okay, fine. And I was like, oh my god, don't kiss, please don't kiss, because it kind of felt like they were going in that direction.
Yeah,
and but I hope maybe he gets into the ISB, because season 2 is going to take place a year later. Apparently, that's the word.
Yep.
And I don't know where they're going with that. And I've never known all season where they're going with those two characters. That's the thing. I'm like, at one point, they're going to team up. No, they're not. Okay, now they are. Nope. Okay, and now I'm like, I guess they are now, and they'll probably season 2. They're like, no, she killed him in his sleep or something. I don't know. I'm just not sure. But let's do it, because I think both of them, they were the surprise characters for me for sure in the show, and I want to see.
Yep. I want to see Cyril introduce his mother to Dedra. This is Mom. This is Dedra. She's not good enough for you. She's not good enough for my Cyril.
So good.
What about you, Chris? Where what do you think is the future for our creepy friend Cyril and our resting bitch face perfect Dedra. Because let's face it, and I say that in the nicest possible way, nobody has a scowl at
Oof.
all times as amazing as she
Such a
is.
It's like,
perfect cast.
like it just her mean face is better than mine. Dude. It's just like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought from the beginning, like I'd love to see these turns and whatnot. So I was like, okay, this kid is all about the Empire, all about his version of justice, that sort of thing. I still think, and they didn't do it this season, of course, but I still think that something's going to happen, and that dude's going to turn rebel or something.
Yeah.
I think something's going to let him down in the worst way, and he's gonna go rebel, or he's going to get let down in the worst way, try to go rebel, and even that's going to backfire on him because this kid has it's just his disposition, and everything. I just think he has the worst luck. So,
But you know what though, I'll play off of that because one of the theories that again, so my theories are worse than Nick's. Mine are 99.7% wrong. Nick is 98.4% wrong. But I think where this show could go, and I think if you think about what the Cyril character is, he's that sort of I'll turn my neighbor in because the Empire wants it. He's kind of smarmy. He's also, I hate to say it, he's a little bit of a representative of that hate click YouTuber who doesn't understand what he just wants to belong to something, right?
Mhm.
And I think that becomes his downfall. Where I see a character like him going is he doesn't bring anything to the Empire other than the possibility of being a sharp stick, right? So that's his only value, but he won't belong if that's all he is. But the rebels can't use him because he's not clever enough. He's not, he can't commit to the rebels. I don't think he can be talked into getting to a point where they'll say something. How could you get let's put it this way, how can you get a MAGA hat wearing person to go vote for Kamala Harris in 2 years? You can't, right? Even if they get shit on by the right, and the other way around, right? If the people who are so committed to being a blue state, they're not going to vote for Trump on principle. So what's Cyril Karn going to do? He's going to get lost. And I think that's going to make him almost a Joker type character, right? Because he could become so unhinged that he could be dangerous to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
So
I like that.
But
Gilroy's like,
yeah.
okay. Change this a little bit.
I don't know that Pete Fletcher guy, but I do like that Joker idea.
He was about to call in, then he got, I got to steal this idea. I was never here.
Yeah, he was on the side. He was ready to call in, and we lost him. But yeah. So,
but Brian has a very messed up, fantastic view. I don't know if you can see it.
Pull it up here. Which one here? Seem to have lost it. Which one? Go ahead and read it.
It's he'll make a well-tailored suit out of her skin first.
Oh yes, there it is. I want to make sure that did not come from Chris. That definitely came from. Yes, yeah, he will. He was all about the tailoring, and yeah. Are you about a size 14? He's like, would you? Buffalo Cyril is in the house. So, well, I think people are still just a little bit stuffed from Thanksgiving, and we're not getting any calls, which is okay. I think we've had a good time hanging out tonight. We didn't really do it very well at the top. I do want to give James the opportunity to tell us a little bit about Rebel Scum because it's a fun show. I've been fortunate enough to be on it, I think, 4 times.
Unfortunate enough to.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I love talking to you anytime. Tell us.
Well, we like to save you for Thanksgiving. Apparently, that's what.
Yeah.
That's what it's Thanksgiving. Better call Pete. And what are you doing Thursday? No, we're just we're a little podcast YouTube channel. We were doing it for 6 years though. It's kind of crazy.
6 years, wow.
Yeah, we did it. We started, I think, right after Celebration Europe, like when the Rogue One sizzle reel, because we did a reaction video. I don't know why we did a reaction video to the Rogue One sizzle reel, but we didn't have a YouTube channel. We just did it. It was by Brock, who is my co-host.
What, you handed out VHSs on the streets of Toronto? You're like,
yeah, that's.
This is our reaction video. What the hell is a reaction video?
Yeah, I know. That's what it is. What are you doing? Get out of the CN Tower. Anyway, yeah, we just talk Star Wars every week, and we have fun, and we actually. I think it was like 5 years ago. We're like, you know what? Let's not do any hate videos. So we don't have any subscribers anymore. But it was a lot of fun while it lasted. No, everyone's like, we're the positive Star Wars, but I don't know. We're just ourselves. We don't really care, and that's like you're the same way. Like it's like we are who we are, and suck it.
Well, yeah, I think the nice thing is, this is why I love listening to you guys and hanging out with you guys as well. Is it's a real point of view that isn't hot takes. Like, I mean, and I don't think you can't call us toxically positive if I'm literally willing to sit here and argue with Chris about the fact that I don't read comics. And if anybody is willing to ask me my opinion on the Rise of Skywalker, I will give it. They won't like it, but I will give it.
We need to do that video on the Palpatine return line, because we're on different sides of that, I think, still. Right?
Yes, I think we definitely are. We definitely are. But that's cool, and that's where Star Wars works best. So, cool. So where can they find you? Just the YouTube channel?
YouTube Rebels Come Podcast, or wherever you listen. Everywhere you listen to your podcast, you can find us.
Awesome.
I don't know. Just go to YouTube. Whatever.
Just look for Rebels.
You won't find us. We're hidden beneath the dirt somewhere. But if you, we're just like,
keep digging, and you'll
type
find
Rebel
us.
Scum Podcast, and you'll go through like 20 indie films on Rebel Scum, and then like somewhere around there you'll find. You know what? If you we used to do videos with Den and Nerds all the time. Just find us there.
Yeah, just find us.
Your face.
We're there. Yeah. Chris, what's going on with Broaxium and all your goodness over the next short period of time?
Yeah, we've got a bit going on. So Sunday night we'll be doing Shooting the Poodoo, talking about Andor, of course. And Mark Perez is going to be our guest for that one.
Nice.
Let's see. This week we have, which is foreign to you, Pete, but Darth Vader, number 29 will be coming out. We'll be doing a quick shot preview of that. And the High Republic Adventures #1 for this phase 2 drops next week. And Ben from Star Bros Podcast will be previewing that. Tomorrow will be episode 4.4 3/4 with Blue Panther Milk. So yeah, we got that going on tomorrow night. Please show up for that. It's going to be a live AI written Star Wars script reading. It's ridiculous. Trust me, I wrote part of it. It's dumb. It's so dumb. It's so awesome. Let's see. I know Dan and Roker are going to be doing. They're doing Broaxium Gaming, which is on Tuesday nights, and it's going to be. I think they're doing God of War still. I think they're doing that game.
Oh, awesome.
So they got that, and Star Bros will have another episode coming out soon. The Nice Guys. We just had our podcast last week where we talked about the movie Running Scared, the 1986 movie.
Love that.
YouTube took it down.
They did?
Yeah. So I'll have to rework it and put that thing back up there again. But we will be back next month, and we're going to be talking about we're doing a holiday one, a great Christmas movie, Batman Returns.
Yeah,
that's a good.
I just watched that for Christmas.
Yeah,
so Christmas October.
Yeah, I can't wait because like Walken was like fantastic in that flick.
Max Shrek, so good.
Yeah, Santa Claus, afraid not. Can't wait. It's gonna be fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, looking forward to that. Always love the Shooting the Poodoo on Sunday nights as well. So from around the galaxy, we ATG Cast, we have we're gonna be speaking to Jordan Hembrow. We had him planned to come on a couple weeks ago, but he got he got really sick, so he wasn't able to join us. So we will be having him on, I think, next week is the plan. And I know Nick has some cool guests lined up for us at Podcast of the Will. So keep with us there. Next Friday, we will be back. And I think, I don't know for sure, Chris, but I think we might be sort of officially kicking off our old guys collectibles. What do we call it? The
Growing Up Star Wars.
Growing Up Star Wars. So
Yeah.
because there will be no new content, unless, maybe we'll talk about the Grogu Dust Bunny thing for about 25 minutes. And I don't know how we'll talk about that for that long. But though those of you who joined us today, thank you so much. If you're listening on the podcast stream, thank you so much. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends, tell your families, buy a billboard. I don't know, maybe one of those airplanes with the ads that run behind it. I don't know. Tell people about us. It helps us out, makes for a good time. Remember, if you purchase any of its stuff from our merch store, let me know and I will send you a Shill keychain. And I think that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. James, thank you so much for hanging with us, dude. This was a blast. Thanks for coming in the pinch here.
Thanks. I had a great time. Yeah, guys. Yeah, thanks.
We will have you back. Chris, always a pleasure, my friend. May the force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.